Shocking story there. In studio now with us, Cabinet Secretary Phylis Kandie from the Ministry of East African Affairs, Commerce and Tourism. Thank you for joining us. The big story today, of course, the President's reaction to the travel advisories, which, this has been a discussion ongoing for a while, and he's come down hard tonight. He said, we'll look for alternative markets. But let's start with the cost of terrorism on our tourism sector. What have we lost so far?
Julie, thank you for having me here. Let's start first by acknowledging the fact that the tourism sector is hurting, mainly because of two facts right now: the terrorism, incidences that have been going on since Westgate, and the second one is the negative advisories that have been given first by Britain, then followed by the other countries, in particular the USA, Australia and France.
So we've lost some numbers because of, obviously, Westgate was a huge international story, but also, of course, the travel advisories have an even bigger impact. Let's go, though, to what the government has been doing to try to address this. Westgate is months away. It's going to be 1 year in the next few months. What have we done to try and ensure that the situation on the ground for Kenyans is safe? That's the first question. But second of all, how are we managing the image that Kenya has internationally, especially in view of the fact that we are an amazing tourist destination, we have very safe areas, but we are facing a very real terrorism threat?
Thank you. After Westgate, if you recall, we went on a very aggressive, and I in particular, I led that campaign on a very aggressive, campaign, especially from the source markets. I remember it did. And for a while it worked for us. But, from April this year, we've been getting quite a number of terrorism incidences, which is quite unprecedented for us. It's something new. No, we haven't experienced that in Kenya. So that's one. The second one is, you've mentioned the negative travel advisories. Again, unprecedented. We've had negative travel advisories before, but it has never taken an extreme.
So let's ask this question. Do these governments know something that our government doesn't know? What information are they using to come and evacuate citizens, to go to extremes of that kind? What do they know?
Exactly. Julie, if you recall from the advisory that was given, they were very particular about Mombasa. Now, the terrorism attack that we had 2 days ago was in Nairobi. So, going back to your question, if you say, do they know something that we don't know? Would it not have been Nairobi, not Mombasa? So I don't think so.
Are we liaising with these governments? And we have heard that in various different respects, we are working with some of these governments to address our security issues. We must be sharing information, sitting at tables, discussing these issues. What is it that they deemed so important that they would evacuate their citizens? There must be something.
Terrorism is not peculiar to Kenya. We've all agreed that it's an international problem. Yeah? And I think all of us need each other. We are partners in this because it could happen to any country in the world. It's not something peculiar to Kenya alone. But we're facing a crisis in this country, and we need our partners in this. The response that we got in terms of the actual evacuation, the president didn't say this was an unfriendly move, and I do agree with him. And so, in terms of them having more information than us, I think as partners we do share information.
And you don't think there was anything relevant to make them go to the extreme of pulling people out of Mombasa, and that is why the words economic sabotage have been raised. Let's stay on this issue of travel advisories and security. And there are some that feel that sometimes we react too much to these travel advisories, that Kenya as a country should say, you know what, let's focus, as we've now heard the president say, on domestic tourism, on regional tourism, perhaps continental tourism as well. There's talk of looking east as well. But more importantly, let's keep Kenya safe for Kenyans. first and foremost, let's keep Kenya safe for Kenyans. Their interests are to protect their citizens, so they can come out with travel advisories. But do you think we're doing enough to keep Kenya safe for Kenyans?
Julie, this is a new security challenge for Kenya, as it is for the rest of the world. And so, while the security agents are doing everything possible, and I know, as you've seen, the president has said that there's so much in terms of the budget. We've actually allocated a lot of funds for security. And I know there have been a lot of work in terms of, increasing, or rather ensuring that we secure the safety of Kenyans and also our visitors. I think at the end of the day, the challenge that we're facing, it boils down to you and me. What are we doing as citizens of this country? We need to support the government in terms of, ensuring that you're more aware of what's going on. You are, you participate in this. Support the government. Give the government information, because it's a new challenge altogether.
You were telling us that citizens have a role to play, and information is one of the key issues that you highlighted. What else can people do? There's a feeling of helplessness, and people look to government. But what else can people do? And we'll come to what your ministry is doing in a minute. But tell us about the citizens.
Yeah, as I was telling you, Julie, I mean, these are times, very challenging times, both for citizens and also for the government, because what we are facing is something unprecedented. And as you rightly put it, the citizens, are looking up to government to do something. But as I was saying, that it's at the end of the day, while government is doing everything possible in terms of really ensuring that we are safe, what we are facing right now, it boils down to you and me. We need to be more vigilant in our everyday activities. We're facing an enemy that we don't know where they could be at any one stage. And so we need to be more vigilant. You need to be more aware of that enemy and, and report, give information to government or react. You don't have to be in that matter if you're not feeling safe.
So if you see a package, if you see something doing something strange, we need hotlines as the people, and please send to Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olelenku. We also need information and training and preparedness for people so that they can react accordingly in times of emergency. And so that's a message we ask you to pass on to him. Let's come back to your ministry and just focus for a while. The situation is dire.
It is.
What are you doing now in order to address that?
Yeah, as I've said, we're facing a crisis in the tourism sector. And it started with Westgate. As I told you, we really went out to the media. We went to the source markets to try to, assure our visitors that Kenya is safe. And we have a structure within the ministry in terms of getting in touch with, our trade on the ground, the people who market Kenya and so forth. So that worked for a while. In April this year, March actually this year, we started engaging the private sector more. I did form a committee, a recovery committee, because we realized that we need to look at our strategy anew. And so we've come up with a strategic plan, of which one involves, looking at, the markets, the domestic market. Tomorrow we are launching the domestic campaign and a product, what we're calling Tembea Kenya. We're encouraging Kenyans to take advantage of the incentives that are being given by the hotels in Kenya. Visit
Tembea, is it Tembea Kenya?
No, it is magicalkenya.com.
Okay, www.magicalkenya.com. If our graphics can get that down as well, please.
Also speak to your travel agent, because they have all this information. We will be on radios, we will be on TV advertising these packages.
So the good news, if there's any good news in this situation, is perhaps finally domestic tourists can enjoy the country because there are offers being given. This might be the right time to say to hotels, you know, what are your prices? Give us some competitive prices and let us fill those hotels so that Kenyans can keep their jobs in the industry. But let's look a little bit more further afield. Do we ignore the East African market? Now, East African Affairs is under your docket, and there are two aspects here. In terms of trade, it's one of our biggest trading partners, Uganda, and the East African region generally. But also, there's a huge market that we can exploit across the region and the continent. Do we ignore our own people?
You're right, Julie. We are looking at the regional market. That's number two. Again, extending the same incentives to the regional market. We look at the regional market as a domestic market, the East African community. And so we're working with the airlines, KQ being one of them, and the other airlines like ET, Ethiopian Airlines and so forth, to give the same incentives to
because it is very
the
expensive
regional
to travel regionally and continentally as well.
Exactly. And so we will focus on that market. And thirdly, we will also focus on the intra-African market. Julie, I'd like to announce that on the 6th of next month, I'm leading a large trade delegation, meaning the travel agents and the hotels, the big hotels in this country, to Nigeria, so that we can market Kenya in Nigeria. We're going there for 4 days from the 6th of June to the 10th of June. We will have road shows both in Lagos and in Abuja. On the 6th of June, Kenya Airways actually will be making its maiden
flight to Abuja,
yes. And we will be on that flight.
Okay.
And so that is something that during the presidential visit to Nigeria, I did arrange with my counterpart in Nigeria, so that again the two
countries can huge market,
a lot of potential there.
And for so long, it's good to hear that, because we have ignored the potential of Africa feeding African businesses and growing African businesses. Great to hear. Let's talk the Big Five now, or the loss of our Big Five. Now, this is not directly under your docket, but it impacts on your ministry, because what happens, Phylis, if we don't have the Big Five in Kenya to tourism?
Julie, I believe we will always have the Big Five.
That's optimistic, considering.
We have to be optimistic, especially at this point in time. While it's not within my docket, I think we are discussing the possibility that, yes, the Ministry of East African Affairs, Commerce and Tourism sells the product. The Ministry of Environment manages the product, or rather conserves the products. So we're discussing that interlink, that we need to bring in, you know, what the market is talking about, you know, another perspective in terms of, conserving, the Big Five, or just conservation activities. So going forward, yes, we will. I'm looking forward to a situation where, we will be sitting on the board of KWS, for example, so that there's that close interlink between the two ministries. But the Ministry of Environment is doing a great job in terms of really the challenges that they are facing. The anti-poaching, the poaching activities is going on. And this again is unprecedented.
Brings us to my final question to you, and lots of SMSs coming in. I'm going to be reading your SMSs in a short while. But my final question relates to corruption. If we deal with corruption, poaching will stop or decrease exponentially. If we deal with corruption, immigration issues will be sorting out, helping security in the country. If we deal with corruption, our security situation will be drastically different, even in terms of the arms that are getting into this country. What's your comment on corruption and how far we've gone or failed to go on dealing with this monster?
Julie, I couldn't agree with you more. I think we've all agreed that what happened in the immigration department, for example, in the past is what has resulted in the kind of challenges we are facing with regard to, people who are not Kenyans coming in to, cause a lot of trouble in terms of, terrorism. So I couldn't agree with you more. So at the end of the day, Julie, it's how patriotic you are with in this country. Kenya, we need to support ourselves as Kenyans. We need to protect our economy. It's not only now the tourism sector, it's the whole economy. So how patriotic are we? You know? And so if we are patriotic, then we can deal with, what you're raising, which is...
Thank you so much for sharing your views with us. We wish you all the best, and let's pull together. We're watched in East Africa and across Africa as well. You're most welcome to come to Kenya and enjoy the tourism, especially at a time when the hotels are not full. And let's keep the jobs going for those who are in the tourism sector. Asante sana, and we hope to have you back on the show to discuss more in your docket. Do you have final words for our audience?
Yes, I do. You know, Julie, at times like this, times of crisis, that is when you know who your friends are. Kenyans are resilient people. Our product is resilient. I would like to thank Kenyans on behalf of the ministry for supporting the sector so far. I'd like to appeal to Kenyans to take advantage of the incentives that are being given by the sector to go out there and enjoy the product.
Right.
A product that God gave us, which is so diverse and rich. From the sandy beaches of Mombasa, to the snow-capped mountains, to the majestic Rift Valley.
Wow.
To the cool waters of Lake Victoria, and to the sandy dunes of the north.
Thank you.
Kenyans, I'd like to thank you for all the support. Go out there and enjoy the product.
And perhaps the most important and beautiful thing about enjoying the product is knowing that you're keeping people with food on their table and you're doing something great. So thank you so much for being with us.